Ahí vamos.
Oh, aquí sí está.
Good afternoon, LEC community. Thank you for being with us for another edition of Ask an Educator. My name is Susana Elizarraz, and I am so honored to be here this afternoon with Haydee. Haydee, ¿cómo está?
I am fine. I'm very well. I have been a long day today, but I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thank you and thank the community for dealing with our technical difficulties. There's just some things that no matter how often you do them, things go wrong. I remember when I was a teacher and I would be with my presentation or my video and something goes wrong and it's like, I don't know, y'all. We're just gonna have to do something different.
Yeah, that's
Um,
why we need a plan B.
yes, plan B, plan C, plan D. You gotta have all the plans.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Haydee, for being with us today. Let's start off, with our questions. Let's jump right in there. So, tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Well, everybody, good afternoon. My name is Haydee Taylor-Arnold, and I'm a Spanish teacher in St. Louis at Ladue Horton Watkins in St. Louis, Missouri. I also am from Panama, and my family is there. I am married, so I am living here. I think that, yeah, I'm living here in Missouri since 2005. So it just have been a journey for me, learning about, different culture and also about different people from different countries that when I was in Panama, I never imagined I was going to meet, especially when I was working with in the different masters I have been studying. So I have a bachelor's degree in ESOL and a
Mhm.
postgraduate degree from Universidad de Panama that was in higher education. And then also I came here to work on my master's in teaching at Lindenwood University. So that was one of my dreams. It was to come and to be immersed in the language. I
Mhm.
studied in bilingual school in Panama, but I realized that several of my communicative skills were not developed, especially the listening and speaking.
Mhm.
So I knew I was struggling with that, and my dream was always just to see, well, I'm going to apply for a scholarship and have that opportunity to come here.
Mhm.
And that dream came true in 2005.
Mhm.
Before that, I was working as a translator for Canal Panama, so I was in touch with the language, but again, growing up in a country that speaks Spanish,
Mhm.
it's hard just to develop those skills. So
Mhm.
um, I did my master in teaching there, and then I have the opportunity to do my master's in Spanish literature in Washington University in St. Louis.
Mhm.
And then I continued working as a teacher, and now I am finishing my dissertation in curriculum instruction at St. Louis University. So the dissertation is focusing on Latino teachers. So that's why I'm very excited. And that's why we connected, Susana. We connected through that when I saw the information you could share with me and learn about how Latinos are here doing in Missouri.
Mhm. Yes. Well, I don't think I think I will if I need to know anything else about education, I don't need to go to school. I just need to talk to you. You've had so much experience in schooling and in certification. And ESO was the first part of that,
It
sounds
was
like, right?
the first one, yes.
And that was in Panama, your
Yes.
ESO degree. Interesting. So is that in that bilingual school in Panama, is that pretty common? People, knowing both languages and learning both and coming here.
Well, I can recognize that because we have the American bases
Uh-huh.
and because of the Panama Canal,
Hmm.
we have that influence that the English is the language that you need to be learning. There are public schools, but my mom and she was just very interested that I was in a school that I could learn English. So, but we're talking about many years ago, and I have to recognize that the methods used at that time were very traditional methods, right? A lot of drilling, there are drills and
Hmm.
fill in the blanks. So the methods of teaching were not very focused on speaking or being communicative, understanding the language. So I was aware of that, because we have a channel 8 when the Americans were there. They have a channel in English, and I used to
Interesting.
change it there, and then try to test myself. I was able to understand what they were saying. I said, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, I don't understand what they're saying." So I knew that those were skills that I needed to develop. And for me, again, it was just like, wait, I would love to be able to travel to a country that English is their native language, because
Mhm.
that would help me. And
Mhm.
it was true. It was true that way. And I was
Mhm.
able to grow in the language.
Well, that's fascinating. We first of all, we've never interviewed anyone from Panama, and that perspective I've never heard of ever. Right, the perspective of look, we lived in Panama, it's close to the canal, and so that influence is there. I've never heard that perspective, so thank you. And then of all places to come to, you came to the middle of the country in the middle of Missouri, right? Uh, which is feels a little I don't know if random is the word because of course there are Latinos in Missouri and but what brought you particularly to St. Louis? Anything in particular?
Yes, it was. I had to tell you, because I always was in that pursuing that I want to learn English. I want to apply for scholarships. I also was one of those top students, like, and graduating. I was the top three in my school from secondary school. And
Mhm.
then also at the university, I have a high GPA. So I was always trying to get a scholarship here and there. So I
Mhm.
applied to scholarship to study English for 3 months in India.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I was one of those Panamanians who were selected in the group where were
Wow.
six of us, and we went to India for 6 months. I'm sorry, 3 months,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. I was
Wow.
like, oh my goodness! I was able to meet people from the former Soviet Union that they were speaking Russian and also their native language, and I fell in love with Russian. And the thing with English, it was funny because it was a mix of the accent, Hindi
Mhm.
and English. And there
Mhm.
were moments I was saying, I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But the cultural experience was so amazing. I really loved that. And I was able to connect with other people. So when I came back to Panama, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to learn Russian. And I learned some words I still remember.
I
So,
love
but
that.
in that group that we went, we were six Panamanians. There was a professor who was there in the group from University of Panama. And then he mentioned about this program at Lindenwood University. So when
Mm.
that happened, I was just very, very interested. And that year, because it was 2001, then that year, a group from the university came to Panama. And then I was able
Wow.
to get interviewed. And for me, it was just an interview. Like, you go there, this is an interview, and it's fine. And so, oh my God, I was so nervous.
Mhm.
And I was using my English, that it was not probably as fluent as I am
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
But then at the end of the interview, I just asked, like, well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I will be looking forward to hearing from you. What is your decision? And then at the end, they said, like, our decision. They said, we made our decision already. You're coming.
Wow.
And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And
Wow.
it was here in Missouri. And they have a
Wow.
wonderful program with a lot of Spanish speaking countries. And by the time I arrived, they have a big group of Panamanian students there. So
Wow,
it
interesting.
was really a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I always ask when people say things and I'm like, wait, I've never heard of that. Tell me more. This is news to me. And that's amazing. I mean, like I said, it seems random, like St. Louis, well, and we're in Kansas City. So a lot of people will say, why did your family choose Kansas City? And of course, there's a story, right? Like a story of, well, los tíos aquí estaban and right? Like the whole story. That's a new perspective for me is hearing
And
about.
the thing is that I think in Kansas City there's a big Panamanian population, right? There is a group of
I don't
Panamanians.
know. I
I
don't
think
know.
I've heard that they do like, for example, this month is big
Mhm,
for us because we
mhm.
celebrate the separation from Colombia, independence from
Uh-huh,
Spain.
uh-huh.
And I can see there is yeah, I have seen some
This.
announcements on Facebook about
Mm,
that, but we are not like a very good no good. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. Please apologize if I say something. See, I'm
No,
sorry.
uh,
I'm
no.
apologizing if I say things that don't make sense. Um,
Okay.
that we have, I have met some Panamanians, but
Mhm,
there are other associations that are more known about, like the Puerto Rican Association,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Colombian, and it's just interesting when I meet other Panamanians. It's just fun.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. It's like here in the Midwest, right? Here in Kansas City, I think in St. Louis as well, right? The I remember when I had friends growing up that were not Mexican, and people would assume they were Mexican. They would say, "I'm not Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican or I'm Colombian," right? Because the main big influence of Latinidad in the Midwest has been Mexican, but
Mhm.
there are pockets, like you said, of Panamanians and Colombians and Cubans and Puerto Ricans, right? So, yes, you're absolutely right. I'd love to hear about your leadership story. Kind of what is a story that you tell when someone asks like about your upbringing and your journey as a student, just about where you are now? What would you consider to be that leadership story?
Well, I have to say that it has been a journey.
Mhm.
If my younger self would look at me, it would say that this is a different person. I don't
Wow.
recognize this person
Mhm.
at all, because growing up, I was kind of a very shy student. One thing I like to do was to laugh a lot, and that's what got me, in trouble many times.
Yeah.
So when I am with friends, I'm kind of very kind of energetic. I like to laugh and all that kind of things. But when I am with people I don't know, I'm kind of very, quiet, shy. And I would have never seen myself like, leading like in different ways like I'm doing right now. So it has, as I said, it has been a journey. I am thankful for the mentors I have had. Starting my teaching journey here in Missouri, I have a wonderful mentor. She embraced me, and she was one of those always advising me, Heidi, you need to speak up. You need to speak up because you have all these great ideas and you share them with me, but I'm not hearing your voice. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Because for us, coming to a different culture that is kind of very assertive in the part of you need to be direct, I learned that I go around in circles, and I feel that I'm not making a point.
Mhm.
And those things make you feel like, oh my God, I'm not going to say anything because probably I'm not going to make sense. Probably nobody's going to listen to me. So you're thinking all that. But there is a moment that you need to take those risks. People are going to laugh at you.
Mhm.
People are going to say things like, what? What did you say?
Mhm.
But it's just great when you see that you have allies and people working by your side or supporting you.
Mhm.
And that's what I have the experience with my mentor. She was amazing. I worked with her 1 year, that first year. Um, in the middle school, and then I went to pursue my second master degree in WashU. And then we keep in touch, and it has passed how many years? Because we're talking about 2007, more than 10 years, and we're
Mhm.
still in touch. And we talk and we laugh, and it's amazing. So that's one part of these uh, journey, growing, learning as a leader. Also, the opportunities I have had in several schools just to lead activities to support students, and opportunities to talk. And sometimes it's not easy. I recognize that. But then in my field, which is world languages, I was able to connect with other people, not only here in Missouri, but also in other states, and attending conferences in world languages. It helped me meet other people and help me learn and attend training. And then I was a rep. I started as a representative in my association right now, and we're talking about more than 6 years working on that. And then now I'm the president. I was president elect 2 years ago, and now I am the president. So it's again, you go little by little, you go step by step. It's not going to come probably right away, because everybody's in different place when you're starting this leadership journey. Probably, I can tell you, like probably 10 years ago, I would say, oh, no way. that probably I will be in a position of leadership like I am right now. But it is, again, it's just a walking. Is what is the saying that they say? It's a sprinting. Like for a marathon, you just go little by little, right? Sprinting
Mhm,
little by little, and then until you reach the goal, because that's what we
mhm,
want. But that's what I can say has been um, part of my journey, right? Looking
mhm.
at that little girl, shy, quiet, and then now, look, having this opportunity to be, on the screen, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah. Yes.
That you're like, oh my God, I'm like, my face, what's going on? But it just give you those opportunities, those challenging
Mhm.
opportunities that help you grow.
Yeah.
And then you accept yourself, and I say it
Mhm,
doesn't matter. It's just
mhm,
like I want to say thank you so much for providing a voice,
mhm.
right? Voiceless
Yeah.
time. So thank you so much.
Of course. I love that you just said that because it's a reason why we've continued our show. We really got put into the virtual space when COVID first started, and we were scrambling to, how do we still support our educators? And this show started in that, right, in April 2020.
Mm,
And one of the big reasons we've kept it is that, um, like you said, right, giving voice to people and hearing. I've learned so much about so many people from so many different countries that speak so many different languages, that are, comfortable with English, not comfortable with English. We've had interviews in Spanish, we've had interviews recorded, bilingual, right? And like, it's exactly what you said. All of us and our stories are so different, but we collide on that, just that little by little, right? You see this big goal, and we all at some point were those little girls and those little boys and those little people who, had goals. I always very much admire, the people I interview who, immigrated, right? Because I know, as a child of immigrants, my parents immigrated from Mexico, what the sacrifice is to do that, right? Because it's not only about, um, you know, oh, immigrating for work and everything, right? You're immersing yourself into, like you said, a whole new culture, a whole new society, a whole new, um, and the language itself, right? And going from mostly Spanish to mostly English, right? So I appreciate you sharing, that part of your story. There's a couple of elements that I wanted to pull out. First, we
mhm.
started with that you're working on your dissertation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what inspired you and kind of how you got into the topic that you did?
Well, because of the different experience I've had as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I started my program, and there were classes like urban education, there were classes about ethnography, things
Mm-hmm.
that we are able to look at and see, look probably a gap, because that's basically what you're looking at dissertation. You're looking at a gap in the research, something that you're going to bring light to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started with the idea of the experiences of Latino teachers.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to hear more about it. Are my experiences isolated? Like I'm the only one experiencing this, or there are others who are experiencing the same. So I was thinking about the what was originally, because now is better. The idea is better now. So, because at the beginning it was so broad, like bringing
Mm-hmm.
the experiences of Latino teachers, or whether there are systems of support. It was related to systems of support for Latino
Mm-hmm.
teachers. So reading about the literature, then I was able to focus on the impact of racial battle fatigue on the social emotional well-being and retention of Latino teacher workforce in Missouri. This is something that for me it brings my attention, because sometimes I used to arrive like home very drained,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it could be physically, but it could be also emotionally. And then
Mm-hmm.
what are those things are surrounding our Latino teachers that can create those conditions, and how we can able to identify that this is not a medical problem that you go to the doctor and it gets solved, but this is your surroundings. So who are the people who are around you? right?
Mhm.
Who are the positive voices that you're hearing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So you need to identify your space. How many times you need to like navigate those intersections, because
Mhm.
also that drains you, right? There is a moment
Mhm.
you feel exhausted. So it's just for me just very important if I could be a person that through the research can find some answers to what is happening in our field, and
Mhm.
it can provide at least advice or what other teachers are experiencing, because I feel that there is power when we are together and we share our voices and we say, oh my god, I can't believe that the same thing that happened happening to me is happening to
Mhm.
you.
Yep.
And then in that way we learn and we grow.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, that's the purpose of my dissertation, and I'm focusing here because after the pandemic, many things that were hidden, like that were under the surface, they came out.
Mhm.
And I feel that this is like the right time to see how we can create those systems of support for our Latino teachers.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, of course, our organization is built off of the same premise, right? That um, there is something happening with the experiences of Latino teachers in schools. We, like you said, we see that through the research, right? We live in a society that's very dependent on research. Like I want to see the numbers, I want to see the research, right? And there is research behind the experiences of Latino teachers. Latino teachers on a national level are leaving the classroom after only an average of 3 years versus the national average of 5, right? So there's something to a story there for every Latino teacher who has decided to leave the classroom. Our organization was built on that belief, and it sounds like your
Mhm.
dissertation is very, very similar to that. And I love how you mentioned, I can't. Am I the only one? Like, am I the only one experiencing this? These interactions and these interviews and things like that also help us see, like, oh wow, yes, I totally that was me too. Like, yes, yes, yes. Because when the culture of schools is so fast paced, the culture of schools is so data driven and test score driven and attendance driven versus, like you said, the social emotional state of our teachers, not just our students, of course, our students and our teachers. We lose sight of how some of our teachers are struggling. I I look forward to one celebrating you when you defend it and you're successful, and you successfully what is that called, like when you defend your
Yeah,
dissertation.
the oral defense. I'm looking forward for your help too, because I will be
Yes,
sending a survey,
yes,
and I'm looking for a specific group that I'm able to interview. But
yes.
I'm just very excited to see what can comes in. Also provide recommendations, because we have our Department of Education, and
Mhm,
although they're very interested because they're working on an outreach plan, right, to
mhm,
support teachers and to recruit teachers.
mhm,
The issue here is the retention. We're
mhm,
recruiting teachers, but what are you going to do in order to retain them?
mhm,
Because there could be places, right, that they
mhm,
could have a toxic culture. I'm not
mhm,
saying, it happens, it may happen, right? So it's just very important to give that information out. I hope that with this research, probably if it's possible that the book can come out of that, but I would like that administrators are able to read it, people who are like lawmakers, right, the ones who are making decisions
yep,
are able to do that, because this is very important. We are living right now a situation that there is a huge shortage of teachers.
mhm,
Not only, it's in different areas, but what are we doing, right, in order to support them? I have heard that people are interested to bring teachers from other countries.
mhm,
Yeah, that's a good initiative, but what are you doing in your space in order to support them? Because that cultural shock is huge, right?
mhm,
And if the teacher is not prepared for that, you're right. First 3 years, they're out.
mhm,
So we don't want that. We want is that they stay, and the important part is that a teacher, and in this case, a Latino teacher who is in a classroom,
mhm,
is that role model for other Latino kids
Yeah.
that are, looking for their identity. They're in that age that they're learning.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's a little bit sad because I fight probably with invisibility, like
Mhm.
so invisible in some situations. But then
Mhm.
what happened to our kids? Because as an adult, right, that I probably can speak up. I can,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
may,
Mhm.
I can speak up. What happened with our kids who they
Yeah.
don't have that voice, right? That they feel
Mhm.
invisible, they don't feel that they don't belong. So
Mhm.
it's just very important to have the role models there in the
Mhm.
classroom.
Yep. I mean, and again, kind of going back to the data shows that Latino students who have Latino teachers are more likely to graduate high school and pursue post secondary. All students are more likely to do the same when they have teachers of color. And
Mhm.
as the LEC, we hear a lot about these new initiatives, or not new initiatives, but these initiatives to bring teachers from other cities or to bring teachers from other countries. But you're right, the culture has to be prepared to be an open-minded culture that is going to be accepting of people and their languages and um, their culture, right? We can't. One of the things that we're starting to consider as LEC is we can't just recruit
Mhm.
if the spaces are, like you said, toxic, are unsafe, are unwelcome, are violent. In some situations, teachers talk about being, you know, chastised in front of their peers, right? So, like,
Mhm.
all of those spaces need to be addressed before we can continue to recruit. I want to bring to light some comments that we have. Hi, Edwin. Uh, yes, so you and Edwin know each other?
Yes, we're in the same field, world languages. And I met him. Oh my God, Edu,
I
you're
know.
amazing. He's
Edwin
doing
is
great work
amazing.
in I
Yes,
think he's in Baltimore. Give me a moment.
Baltimore.
I'm going to get my
Yes.
head.
Yes, yes. Edwin, hi Edwin. Yes, Edwin is a good friend of ours as well. He says saludos, Latinx Education Collaborative desde Baltimore. Shout out to Haydee and Susana. Haydee is an amazing educator. So hi Edwin, you're getting some love, Haydee.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's so, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yes, yes, of course. And we have another good friend of the LEC with us, Dr. Clark. Hi, Dr. Clark. Says, what a great topic for your dissertation. I agree. Um, and like you said, dissertations are often or are finding gaps in research, and that very much. I'm sitting here taking notes because now I'm thinking about people who are doing similar work as the LEC around the country and in other places that I'm like, oh, we could totally, like, you need to connect with these people, right? So look for some emails from me because now
Amazing,
you
amazing.
got my wheels turning. You got my wheels
And
turning.
the thing is that how we are prepared to deal with, for example,
Mhm.
microaggressions,
Yes.
macroaggressions. It's just
Mhm.
like it prepares you because when I started in middle school teaching in a different school district, I started right away with a equity cadre. I wanted to learn more about my students. And understand myself too, because there were some things probably they could be misinterpreted. And I learned that first year. I remember some students say, oh my God, you roll your eyes at me, and say, what? Did I do that? Did I do that? Did I roll my eyes? Oh no. And it's, in some cultures it's very, very, like, very rude to do that. So it's just very important for us to know those layers, what we bring to the table, what is our cultural framework, how I identify myself, and also create a space for our students so they identify themselves, how they feel in the classroom. I
Mhm.
like to have conversations with them. There's still more work to do because sometimes you want things to run smoothly,
Mhm.
but sometimes they don't, and it's fine. It's okay as soon as the students are learning.
Mhm.
So it's just very important for us as teachers and Latino educators to know what we bring to the table, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and our students see it, right? Like our students, I've had conversations with teachers all the time, right? And they'll say things like, I had a conversation earlier this month with someone who's they're not a teacher, they're a like AmeriCorps fellow who's
Mhm.
in the school, and he said, there's this big group of Latino boys that come to me every morning, and it's like, the hand fist and the hey, because it's more than instruction, right?
Mhm.
It's more than academics. It's more than curriculum. It's
Mhm.
our students seeing themselves in the people who serve them, who are in their school, and them saying, okay, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to stick around. I see, Miss Ellie, I see, Miss Taylor. You're like, I'm going to stick around for this, and that's making a difference. So, our system should shift to allow for us to have space as well, in the places where we don't. So
Mhm.
I would love, I'm going to skip over some of my questions because we've kind of like, um, kind of dipped into some of the other questions, but you've talked a little bit about the hurdles that you've had so far, kind of getting where you are. What's kind of a specific hurdle in your career that has made your dream of teaching just a little more difficult?
Well, usually I was thinking about also the questions that when we have a hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
For me, one of the things I remember working is just like I like to sometimes hear that pat like in your shoulder, like you're doing a great job,
Mm-hmm.
right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be like a shout out, like, oh my God, a spotlight and lights and everything. No, it doesn't have to be that. But it's important, like, for example, for me, that, you feel that what you're doing is a good job, that you're doing a good job. And sometimes don't feel invisible. That's one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I have struggled with,
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of invisibility. But I have come to terms on that, and I'm aware that's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just need to be prepared. And I remember I was attending, it was a ceremony, and I think it was, I cannot remember her name. I apologize for that, but I remember it was the former superintendent of Jennings School District, and she said that, when the table is set, right, there are people set on the table and there's no place for you, you bring a chair and then you sit to the table.
Sit
You
down.
sit to the table, not on the table, but you make a space.
Yeah. Yep.
You need to be proactive. And sometimes we can get passive on that part, like, oh, well, never mind. They didn't say anything, or they didn't call my name, or they didn't do that. We need to be proactive. There are going to be moments that you're going to feel that urgency, because the work that we do, we need to be very intentional in that work, especially serving our students and
Mm-hmm.
serving our students of color, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need to be proactive. You need to say, you need to speak up. And I remember my mentor, you need to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great, because also through my journey, I remember an opportunity I missed when I was at the university. I was telling my mom that I really wanted to do my practice and in the Canal zone, because people speak English, spoke English there.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity opened that day. They were assigning people and say, "Who wants to go there?" So, well, I was not assigned first time, so it
Mm-hmm.
was not meant to be. And I was thinking, like, well, if God would have loved that for me, He would have put me right away. But that was the opportunity. I say,
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to go there. That was the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and I missed it. I missed it, and I said, like, oh my God, why I did that. So it's just very important that we're aware that sometimes we're going to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then we need to take any opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to make that space.
Yes. Yes. I don't know if this was your experience, but I remember. So my experience is a little different. But growing up, my mother was undocumented. When I was a kid, so we were taught very much to be quiet.
Mhm,
We were
mhm,
taught very much to, no, haz caso, haz caso, haz caso, right? If the principal says this, if the cashier says that, if the doctor says this, es lo que es, right? Like that.
mhm,
That's what and so I learned to be very complacent, right? And just like just listen to what they say. But like you're saying, when you're in a space that you have the responsibility to advocate for students, to advocate for families, it's hard. It's hard because part of maybe our upbringing has been like, haz caso,
Mhm.
just do
Mhm.
what you're said, do what
Mhm.
you're told kind of thing. I don't know if that was your experience growing up, but I know for me it very much was.
You're
Um,
totally right. You know,
yes.
how is our culture? We follow instructions. You what the teacher said. It is what it is. You never argue.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble at home.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's this scary moment, a very nerve-wracking moment when you are like, wait, that's not acceptable, or wait, that's not the way this should go. Or you see the student who's being silenced, or you see a parent who isn't being heard,
Mhm.
and then you're like, oh no, I'm gonna have to say something. I'm gonna Right. It's very nerve-wracking, but it's very inspirational for me to hear that someone else has had that experience,
Mhm.
because it is a very unique experience, and it's very isolating. You feel like you're the only one arguing and not listening and no haciendo caso. My mom, actually 2 weeks ago, my mom said, ¿te gusta el trabajo que haces ahora? Do you like the job you have now? Because it seems like that you're having to uh, disagree with a lot of people, or you have to talk about to a lot of people and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I advocate for teachers, and I
Mhm.
advocate for Latino students, and that's my passion. She said, ¿no te gustaría, trabajar en un desk? She says, you're very intelligent. Go be an accountant, or go be just no tener que alegar, and I'm like,
Mhm.
no, someone needs to do it. Someone needs to advocate. So, thank you for sharing that, because
And those are the places of leadership, right?
yeah,
That we develop, but that we
yeah,
need to be there, advocating for people,
yes,
especially, in our case with Latino teachers and
hmm,
students.
hmm,
And when we're aware
hmm,
of what are microaggressions, then
yeah,
you can also speak up.
hmm,
Sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, you are too sensitive," because that's what happened. Oh, this
mm,
that was a joke. You are too sensitive. But in
mm,
that way, you will find allies with you, and
interesting.
the allies who are in the same journey, learning about this, they will
Hmm,
be able to see that, and
yeah,
they'll say, "No, this is not that she's oversensitive. This is what is happening. This is a
hmm,
microaggression." So it's about educating people, learning about different things that can
hmm,
affect. And I know that growing up, things that you hear is just like, well, you didn't like it, deal with it,
hmm,
deal with it. As an adult, I would say, like, I need to develop thick skin, because you're going to find different situations around. But for me, it's just important just to work with my students, because they cannot make those decisions at
hmm,
their younger years. They're just
hmm,
learning,
hmm,
and those kind of situations like that could be traumatic for them. So it's just good to be there, to be
hmm,
the role model, and to be a support for all
hmm,
the students,
hmm,
because I have a diverse group of students.
yeah,
And I'm glad that when I have some of them coming, right, and talking to me and telling me about their day, and
hmm,
saying, like, I work in this place, and I say, like, oh, what is the name? I say, oh, why are you asking? Are you going to go there? So when you
I
have those conversations,
yeah,
because they open up, they're opening up, and
hmm,
telling you about their daily life, that sometimes we're not aware.
hmm,
And with everything that has happened after the pandemic, yes, we know that our kids are struggling with emotions, with feelings of isolation,
hmm,
with feelings of how to socialize, right?
yeah,
After being a whole year probably behind a computer,
hmm,
how they can develop those skills. And sometimes it's not easy. So we need to be aware of all that.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. And how this is going to impact generations to come. I have a son, a 1-year-old son, and he is we're seeing his pediatrician is talking about how they're seeing some differences in them versus babies 5 years ago, right? That were more comfortable with being in large spaces and going with people. But he's very much like, I know my mom and I know my dad, and everyone else
Mhm.
is a stranger, right? Because
Mhm.
of COVID has kept us home. So that impact and seeing that as a teacher, right, and how being the voice for the voiceless sometimes it is difficult, but despite the hurdles, there are, of course, especially today. Haydee, thank you for what you do teaching. I mean, education is um, it's a very tough career, and also very rewarding. Today, it's even more tough and very rewarding. But what keeps you going? What is like in the morning? You say, "I'm gonna go tackle this another day." What is that for you?
Well, I have to say that I grew up with, well, my family's educators. My mom was an elementary teacher. My father was a college teacher. At the beginning, I didn't see teaching like a right away, profession, because I wanted to use English,
Uh huh.
and also I ended working as a translator. But then having the opportunity here is just, for me, what keeps me going is just like the opportunity to interact, with the
Mm-hmm.
students. It could be, I'm not saying that I'm a superwoman, because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot say that every day I feel like full of energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are moments that you feel down and say, oh my God, I just want to stay here home.
Mm-hmm.
So, but keeps me going is the opportunity just to share, to collaborate, not only with the students, with peers, with my peers,
Mm-hmm.
because you learn new things every time. And the
Mm-hmm.
best professional development is to see what your colleagues are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we know we believe in, oh, okay, I need professional development in conference and things like that. And it's great because you're networking with people from other places, other states, other countries.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's just the teacher next door who can you
Mm-hmm.
get a awesome activity or something that you can share with your students. But I have to say that for me, a great day that keeps me, moving and going is that I can laugh with my students, that
Yeah.
I can be myself. It can be probably a little bit silly. I laugh a lot, so my
Mm-hmm.
students know. But it's just those things that keep me
Yeah.
here in the profession. And I know it's not easy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. Sometimes we feel drained, and it's right that we can feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
We feel drained, and if we need, to take some days off. Is that right? That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's a part of being able to advocate for others, and leadership is knowing when to take a break, is knowing when to step away, right? I hate to have to end our conversation because I like I said, I feel like I know I have so much to learn from you. And you said, you don't need the spotlights and the lights and everything. Well, here they are. I do want to give you the spotlights and all the shout outs and all of the thank yous and all the appreciation for what you do. Thank you for your commitment to our field and to our students and to our students' families and our schools. We'll end off with this. If you had one thing that you want all of your students to leave your class with, once they go off into their lives and start their careers, what is one thing that you want them to know, walk away with from experiencing you as a teacher?
Well, as a Spanish teacher, we work with culture. I would love that my students can live, with a awareness of different cultures, awareness that you're going to find people are different from you,
Mhm.
right? And then you will be able to show respect. You're going to be able to understand different manners, that they don't mean just because you can understand something this way in your culture, probably is interpreted in a different way in another culture. And I hope that they have that, they're open-minded to new things, because in the same, say in the classroom, if I bring things or share things with them, like in one of the situations I did, I shared with them about the dish mondongo, which is like tribes, scout tribes. And I said, what would you do, right, if you're invited to eat this? What's going to be your reaction? Would you be like, oh my God, I cannot eat that? Would you eat it? So it's just very interesting to know their perspectives. And they can do that through a language class, because our language classes are so much full with culture, that gives them that opportunity to students to be cultural aware of what is happening around them.
Yeah. Yes. Haydee, I know it was a long day for you of teaching. So, again, I want to, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of energy and a lot of thought to be able to do something like this. I appreciate that. And again, thank you, giving you all the spotlights. Thank you for,
Oh, thank you.
yes,
So the audience doesn't have any questions for me?
no more questions. No, no. You all feel free to, reach out if you're interested in Heidee's dissertation. Haydee, you send me anything that you would like our community members to participate in, whether it's a survey or an interview.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
please. We have a large community that can support you with that. So good luck, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you for being with us, Haydee. We'll get home, and get some rest.
Yes, thank you for having me. It has been a
Yes,
pleasure to be here,
yes,
and just continue, collaborating with you guys. And I appreciate the work you do
thank
for
you.
our Latino teachers.
Yes,
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you, Haydee. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.